Hello everyone, welcome to 3 Screen Plays Pathfinder, episode 75, but not really, because this is actually the end. So, let me switch over to our members who are currently present. So, due to the campaign not going in the way that I intended, also starting piecemeal with one book, then me proceeding to get every book and introduce elements of every book incrementally and poorly, we are ending the campaign. I cannot continue the game and get to the end point at which I wanted it to, even with massive retcons, and at that point it's not even the game that we started with, so I might as well start with a new campaign anyways. So I'm going to be taking some time away from Pathfinder to reread the core rulebook and every other rulebook that I'm choosing to use, which I have been doing and I have missed a lot. So we just wanted to let you guys know that that is why this is ending. It wasn't anything on really behalf of the players, it was that I just couldn't reconcile all of the ideas that I had, and I was creating a game that was no longer fun, which is hard to say, but very true. So, this is the opportunity, if anyone had any questions about the campaign or their character, to ask it. Because after this, I am wiping away my notebook, and it will be all gone.
I should read all the list.
Right?
I kind of almost don't want to know in a way. You know what I mean?
There's some little ones I would like to know.
Like what?
Okay, in episode 2, when Marius when Marius took Titus's cards and went out, and I gambled, and then I came back.
Angered the gang?
Yeah, what was going on with the gang? Were we ever going to see the gang again?
That was going to happen when Marius made it back, actually. Is the gang was actually going to be at the dock and was going to jump him.
Because
they're going to be like, that's the guy who stole all of our money 6 months ago. And the one potion. Because
every time we went to a back alley for that entire phase where we were going to tell Freyot, I was like, this is it, we're going to get mugged. We're going to get mugged. Oh, we're going to the black market. We're going to get mugged. This is it.
We got
Sorry, screwed us over.
You know what? We got mugged by a bunch of little kids, and that was even better.
And then there was the green woman in episode 1 in the green cloak who gave money to Ishtar and or Davina. That was actually, she was a leader of one of the nearby churches and was going to enlist you guys to go and actually investigate the sewers. There was another loop into the sewers. But there was going to be some rattling that she heard coming up through the piping of her church. And so you were going to go investigate it there. But luckily, the explosion at the bank nearby, you didn't need to actually follow her. But it was just like, if you guys for some reason just be like, guards got this. That was what it was going to loop into.
Makes sense. You had with the necrocrafts, when we first started talking about the necrocrafts, there was a giant whirlpool in the center of the ocean, or near the ocean, where a bunch of dead bodies, parts would just collect, and that's where they got all their stuff to create these. I initially thought that was going to be directly related to Gendor, because that was around the time that we recruited Zempe, or not.
And we were talking about Zempe.
And we were talking about Zempe and everything. And it was our first necromancer lead. That was not Gendor. What was that?
That was one of the other liches that we had mentioned before. This lich had been looking to recreate life, and so they actually had originally been a divine caster, and I think it was actually for Sarenrae. It had been something else, but it made more sense to be Sarenrae when Civil joined in if it was going to be a thing. And then they discovered that someone that they loved died, and through even their restoration and praises for aid got nothing, so like, fuck it, I'm gonna create my own life. Turned into a lich, created the whirlpool, and we're basically eventually trying to recreate their perfect lover again.
That's cool.
Wow.
Touching.
There was the lich in the north.
Which was that one, which was gonna be...
That was that one?
Yeah, and so the whirlpool was up in the north. There was, let's see, the lich in Homoon, which I need to find my map. So that was the one where there was actually like the cataclysm that was like down in this area. So it was actually a lich that wasn't evil. Their goal was to... They had originally received a prophecy of sorts that a disease was going to come and was going to wipe out the world. And so they turned themselves into a lich to give themselves more time to extend their research and to find a cure. And so you guys are going to hear about this lich that was just trying to keep people away from its lab. And you were going to go there, and it was going to be a conflict of like, well, they're a lich and they're inherently evil, but he's doing good things, and what is this balance here? And it's going to ask for aid, or either to leave it alone after you guys fought it, and it's be like, why are you interrupting my work? And those are the 3 liches. And then the chasm lich was actually located, actually the phylactery was located in Ravenhorn, or the ruins of Ravenhorn.
I wanted to know about where the witch's phylactery was. That left me awake at night.
Well, why was the Lich's phylactery there? Was he a student there, or like what happened?
Yeah, so they figured the safest place to keep a magic item was going to be in the basements where actually Davina was before, because it was a fucking mess. And
yeah, that didn't make sense to me. But
yeah,
you know, if you were going to leave it, I would leave it at the 20th basement.
It was way at the bottom. Like the person was like, "Okay, no one's gonna fucking come down here. I had to swim through this and fight an ooze. It's safe."
Davina was almost there.
Yeah, Davina was close.
But then she got fucked up by some demons, and you know.
Yeah, but had you for some reason decided to continue to go down, you might have found the phylactery and been like, "Oh,
it's a phylactery."
Oh.
What was the phylactery?
The phylactery was just going to be their original medical kit, and like a healer's kit, but it was sealed up and had runes on it, and it was reinforced as a phylactery is.
This was the first one that we fought and killed in the chasm?
Oh, I'm sorry, I got the...
Got it mixed up.
Yeah. So that phylactery was actually going to be a book on Marius' family.
Ambrose.
Yeah, and it was on the inside. It's going to be hollowed out, and it's going to have a gemstone.
Was he related to Marius?
No, but the family had pissed off that lich, and the lich basically had a vendetta. And so when you had your ring and everything, it noticed and was like, okay, I'm going to hunt this fucker down. I know what he looks like. And so that was going to loop in, but then Marius left, and it's like, okay, well.
He's going to be back.
Yeah.
Was the Umbra... was my father, the head of the Umbra family, evil, or was he good?
He was evil.
He was evil.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Your mother was the good influence on you.
Makes sense.
I was kind of secretly hoping it was going to be like a Castlevania Dracula thing, but it's okay.
Kind of was. I mean, he was good.
Well, I mean, he was a good person.
And then he turned evil.
Yeah.
After she died.
Right.
Yeah, left. I want to know where Wiggum's Bog is, but I'm not going to ask that question. That's a
Do
question.
you know where Wiggum's Bog was?
Yes.
Wiggum's Bog was down here in Yimnip. It was Idle Bog, and your mother was alive and in the bog, and she was the ritual that originally she taught you that you put the lives into your ring. She stole the lives out of your ring and was beefing herself up again because she had created this relic of sorts that was to resurrect her after a certain time. Think of it like true resurrection, but triggered after X amount of time of her death.
That's cool.
Nice.
And so
that would have been a cool boss to...
Yeah.
I would have liked killing her again.
And the Senatentiary had come and gone, and then that's when she's like, oh, these are still going. Whoop.
What was the curse?
So the curse was that if you were to die, your soul would be rended. And you would not be able to return, because she knew that you'd be fucking pissed.
Fair.
Unless you had gotten a divine intervention, which would have led to a whole thing. If Sybil had gone like, Sarenrae, save, you would have had to coming to Sarenrae talk. Yeah. Just like, hey, you gotta be fucking good.
I'm trying.
From what I understand about your character arc, it was all about a redemption story, was it not?
It pretty much was, yeah.
Which I think I thought it was pretty cool that you got the, Ragagog and the Sybil tattoo, or the intentions.
Let's just be honest. It was a civil tattoo.
Because
She was
Senrei,
like,
is all about redemption. Like that's her shtick.
Yeah.
First and foremost, she's all about turning people back to the good. And there's oftentimes in her clergy, there's a lot of ex-criminals that have turned their ways and become good people again. So it's really cool that was the god that you resonated with, as well as with Rathagog. He is just the embodiment of chaos and
which actually led into an element of the story because Rovagog, whenever the items were left, Wiggum could be seen, and so basically it was insidiously, and several thoughts had come to Wiggum that's like, do you want the power to protect your friends? And so basically Rovagog was trying to get Wiggum to become his champion, which is what was going to happen in the episode before I ended the game. And so it was going to just be like, I choose no one, and then would develop mythic powers. And then everyone would be like, oh, you chose someone. Be like, yeah, totally, da da da. And then eventually was going to run off with the Apoca Cutlery and become a villain. And then you would have fought Wiggum. And
I would have been in my bog, so it would have been...
Yeah, after she killed her mother. Or allied with her, I don't know what would have happened. It would have been a discussion. And then the weapon would have been created. You would have summoned the Grand Leviathan that was going to start wiping things out.
Was that what the Apoca Cutlery created?
Yeah, so the Apoca Cutlery were able to eliminate Rovagug and his children. It couldn't take out him because he was a god, and it would take a lot more power. Because actually... Davina's god in the old timeline, because I had to reference it, was originally alive and survived, but in this one had died. And so somehow Davina was still receiving her powers, even though her god was dead, which shouldn't happen. And I was trying to figure out how that was gonna work, but I hadn't really reconciled that yet. But the weapon was going to, when triggered by Wiggum, rip a hole and shatter the prison that Rovagug was captured into, and Rovagug was going to summon his grandest of children, which was this Leviathan with 100 eyes that could shoot 100 different rays, and did X, Y, and Z.
You would have really needed a D100 at that point.
Yeah, and so it was going to be a really grand fight, and so I had this whole scene figured where Kafrik was going to come in on her golden ship, and she was going to crash it into the Leviathan, and Katriana was going to come in on... Carvada and get struck down, and Carvada was going to watch as Katriana died and was going to basically hold on long enough to try and fight them off. There was going to be an original villain party against you guys that might have showed up if you guys had either become good enough rivals or friends with them. So it was just kind of like, oh, and then the Bastion was going to rise up, and so you guys could call on these different allies as the time got closer. Pirate Kings was another option of something that you could have suck out. Same with Ravenhorn. Had Davina chosen to try and go there, and
was Ravenhorn destroyed in this timeline?
It was destroyed. The demons had stopped, but there was like a base camp down at the bottom. Like, this is the,
just like everything else in Davina's life.
I got the pizza.
Okay.
No, who's at the door?
Second pizza.
Let us put us on a brief hold while we investigate the knock. Spencer is here and will hop in shortly.
Yay!
I don't remember where I was at, but yeah, Ravenhorn had created a small base camp in which they were rebuilding, and it was going to be... They're like, okay, we know that the Ravenhorn goes down up until this point in the mountains, so we've been digging a tunnel to try and go up there. We're going to come up from the bottom because they're not going to expect it. And then, if you guys had followed that, you could have joined in and tried to fight them off.
Fair. Where were the other 2 pieces of pocket cutlery?
So, one of them mentioned fire, which they mentioned the plane of fire, but it was actually just related to the volcanoes. So one was going to be kept in the area of Baku, which is that mountain, the mountain range, the slips. And so you're going to have to be like, okay, dwarves, we're like invading your territory, give us your shit. And then you would have to end up fighting. It was kept by one of the kings because it was I believe they had the knife of death. And so basically, all of these things over time would emit these crystals, which is where you got the dark crystal and you got the red stone that made up the door of the Lich and the Chasm. And so basically he was going to be prepared to drop these clusters of crystals into the volcanoes, which would cause them to erupt. Which I actually had on part of the map. It would turn into a volcano if that ever got triggered. The other one was the napkin ring of pestilence, which was...
what?
The napkin ring of pestilence.
The ring that holds like
Fancy napkins.
I had money bet that it was going to be a spork, but okay, whatever.
And the napkin ring
Yeah,
of
pay up.
pestilence was actually kept under Convas, which is where Davina was from in that area, but someone had actually found a way to turn the crystals to be used in the opposite way, which is why that area was so fertile. Except for the little country of Quenzit. They were fucked because
That's where we put all our prisoners.
Yeah, they were hated, and so they stuck them there. There was actually a 5th one, which was the plate of perdition, or the plate of penance. And so eventually, like, I had a logo I was working on. It was going to have, like, a different...
Pestilence. Yeah, pestilence.
Yeah.
Penance
So,
is a really, really good thing.
So
Pestilence
basically,
is a bad
at
thing.
some point, it was penance or perdition, depending on how it was used. And so after Wiggum had stolen everything, if that's how we had done it, you guys would have heard, it's like, hey, look at this image. There's actually a bigger ring. What if that's something? There's this little glitter that kind of shows where they all are. And so you were going to see on the book that you had gotten that they were all converging except for this one. You're going to go into that area, and the plate was actually going to be something that was created after, stolen away, and could actually alter the weapon.
Book of Dragon Scouter? Was the Book of Dragon Scouter?
Dragon Scouter.
From Dragon Ball Z?
I have no idea
What was it? A map that led to the other items?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Dragon Scouter. That's awesome as well.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for being like super humble and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Over chat.
That's an important thing.
And thanks for taking steps to like make the game.
Yeah. So my goal is to reread all the rule books and actually figure out the world ahead of time. Where you're not going to have as many options. It's going to be something where it's like, here, there's 3 things, and it's going to like, no, I'm not saying that. There's like these 2 things, and yeah. And so you guys will have kind of a guided direction of where you're going to go with things.
Got it.
And there's also, my goal is eventually to redo this room. I'm going to try and get like a large table and chair so we can actually have like something in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's more comfortable because
we're all like.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. And you guys have places to set shit.
That's way better.
And also the option of getting like a 3D printer so we can print out characters and stuff.
Totally bring a candle.
Yeah.
We should have different scented candles for like different types of.
Yeah.
We're in the sewer.
Those that have like the different dice in them at the bottom. Like, yeah, you've gotten several. Yeah.
I have like a sandalwood like or something, and it just smells.
Yeah.
Like flowers.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
So actually, Rook had survived. Basically, he killed the guard. The guard didn't give Rook information that he could understand, and so Rook got pissed. It's like, fuck, now what am I going to do? Kind of went around in the slums trying to get information, but by the time he went back, everyone was gone. It's like, fuck, I think they left me, and then eventually...
Circe's.
Yeah, ran into Circe's when they were leaving, and Rook was going to go back and try and pursue what he was going to hunt.
Right. Cool.
Crow and Diabella were going to eventually get healed and go back and run their inn. Boot was fine. Boot was actually in charge of the inn while they were gone. And changed the payment to garbage, which the girls were fine with for now. Boot was actually, I was leveling him up a little bit more, and so he eventually got a little bit more charisma. He got up to a 7.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite
good for
a
him.
lot for him.
Yeah.
He's a living large.
And so your portal thing was going to be useful for eventually getting to the prison that Rovagig was held in.
Right.
So.
What the fuck was the Broken Soul doing down in the basement?
Oh, of that one room?
Yeah.
The Broken
Fellow
Soul
prisoners.
was the remnants of a cult that attempted to create a Broken Soul and it slayed everyone. It's like, hey, I have a lair
That's cool.
that no one knows how to get fucking into because you literally have to progress until you
In
hit
specific
and go
way.
out the way that you came by making a loop. So
Makes sense.
luckily you guys continued to follow the loop, so I didn't have to be like, oh shit, they're fucking out here, because I didn't plan for that. But luckily I didn't have to, which is one of the few times that your guys'
That was a good puzzle. It was a simple
Yeah.
puzzle.
it worked really well. It was
It's
one of the few times I didn't plan for something and it didn't go totally awry.
I liked that puzzle.
So yeah, so the Broken Soul was just a member of a cult.
Okay.
And it was in the middle of town and would steal women at night. Or men.
Man.
Yeah. Catriana was one of them who just happened to get caught, and Carvado's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. As it was.
Why were all the castle people in there?
Oh, because there was another exit. Had you guys found it, it was like a secret door.
From the castle to there?
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's why that's why Diabella was there, who was originally not meant to be a player character and was going to actually be a spy, but never actually developed that part. And she was spying for Lavea, which was that neighboring country who had the war up north with the Northern Coalition of Cities that Sybil was from.
I see. Was the oh, I had a question that I lost. Maybe get back off that.
I'm just listening to you guys right now.
Anything else?
I'm sure there are. I can't think of anything.
Eventually they can come out. But anyways, eventually I will have something more planned out and less sandbox and more railroads. It's not gonna be one.
Multiple branching rails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyways, thank you all for joining us. It's been a little over 2 years, I think, since we started. So I have learned things and I will do better in the future. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add in? Besides, thank you for joining us. We appreciated it. We'll be back eventually.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's about it.
All right. Well, thanks all, and we will see you in the future in a world that looks remarkably similar because I'm too lazy to create a new fucking map. All right. Bye, guys.